Have any of you noticed lately that there just seems to be this rise in anxiety in a lot of people? Now, there's two different ways I want to talk about this. Not just one being the normal anxiety that we receive from maybe financial stresses, day-to-day life, some things that don't go our way, and then we build up this anxiety within ourselves, and then we just want to, go home, relieve the stress in some way, watch a movie or do something to keep your mind off it. But then there's this other anxiety that is just, it's coming from spiritual warfare. And certain things take place when you're going through this that it just takes you to this level of where you have this deep panic and you fear that you're having a heart attack at times. You never experienced it before, to the point where you take yourself to the emergency room because you think you're having a heart attack or something is seriously wrong. Maybe your blood pressure is going through the roof as you're trying to figure out what is going wrong. So today I want to discuss a couple of things and how to prevent this, how to stop this dead in its tracks and prevent this from happening. Because if you talk to a lot of people recently, whereas I've had these situations myself that has led me personally into the ER 4 times out of the past 6 weeks because of some certain medications and things that took me down to where I was receiving severe anxiety. But then I noticed while I was experiencing these things, there was a lot of spiritual warfare that was going on. And I'm going to go into detail how I picked up on that and how I knew for certain it was coming from the enemy. So the first thing I want to go over is when you're facing the normal anxieties of life, like we all deal with, just with the cost of living and everything going on. Maybe you're trying to save for a house or save for a new car or just trying to live paycheck to paycheck. So first thing I want you to look at is John 15:5. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So what happens at this point, when a lot of us feel this anxiety from day-to-day life, a lot of us try to take things in our own hands. We try to manage everything in our own 2 hands. We think we can take on life and just make things work out. Maybe that's how you were raised as a child by your father or something, just to handle things on your own, that nobody's there to save you, that you have to only depend on yourself. And you always want to try to fix things. And by doing that, you're taking Christ out of the equation and you're only allowing yourself to do so much. You're limited. You can only do so much. Things will only work out as far as they can with your own 2 hands. If you take Christ out of the equation, you are very limited. So to prevent this early on anxieties that you face, you have to give it to the Lord. You have to just submit everything before the Lord and allow him to do a miracle in your life. Allow him to show you, if you have faith in him, he will make sure you're taken care of. He will work things out as they always are. If you're living and breathing right now, you have made it through every single battle. So just give it to the Lord and know and trust in him that he will make it work. And by doing that, you will feel a relief of stress and anxiety in your life that you battle with every day. It's only because you try to take those things into your 2 hands and try to make things work is what brings on a lot of stress and anxiety, this pressure of life, like the whole world's on your shoulders. So today I want to share this clip that I saw of Jeremy Camp, and it's on 99.1 JoyFM, their YouTube channel, where what he's experiencing is an attack from the enemy that leads him down this really dark panic attack. He feels like he's possibly having a heart attack, like he's never faced or felt something like this before. And I want to go over, how do you prevent from this happening? How do you stop this dead in its tracks before it leads you down a path? And know that the enemy uses this as his number one tool to break you, to separate you from the Lord and to mentally break you down. The one tool that he knows, if he gets a foothold on it and he gets you down that path, it is so hard to get out of. So let's watch this real quick.
I remember there was just feelings of almost terror where everything was so overwhelming. I had thoughts like really literally like, am I dying? And there's fear to go outside. There was about 2 weeks where I felt like I couldn't even go outside. I couldn't get out of bed because I felt like the anxiety and the panic would rise up so much. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And it was terrifying. So I took my daughters to Uganda for a missions trip. I remember as I got there, there was this kind of feeling of protection. I'm going to protect my daughters, just me and my daughters. My wife wasn't there. My son wasn't there. So I'm feeling this, everyone's talking about malaria and yellow fever. We had to get a yellow fever vaccine and take malaria pills.
See, this is a good example right here where it's something new to him that he's going to go do. And instantly the enemy will start putting these thoughts and ideas in your mind of what if this happens, of what if that happens. And it just starts to lead you down this deep thinking of fear of what if these things do happen? How can I prevent them? What can I do to help if my family gets sick? What am I going to do? These are usually the early steps. When you start facing something like this, the early steps you see is you get these thoughts that you normally wouldn't think about that just start coming into your mind, and they start to put fear in your heart.
All this. And so as a father, I was already, I think, worked up over that. I remember I started feeling very shaky. Like I would try to pick up something and my hand would be shaking. And I was like, okay. So I remember getting ready to do this outreach we were doing. There was like 30,000 people and I was getting ready to, share the gospel, play a concert and share the gospel. And I felt so shaky. And I'm like, what is happening? I've never experienced that. I wasn't nervous because it wasn't nerves. It was something different. And so played the show, like 1,000 people responded to the gospel. So of course I'm rejoicing, but also like what's happening. So we get home after the trip and, of course the whole time I'm just kind of curious, like, what if they got malaria? I seriously, it was just erratic, irrational thoughts that I was having that I'd not really experienced quite like that before. So I got home.
See, if you ever face something like this, if you ever have the early stages before you go down this path of a deep anxiety or panic attack or something like this, the first thing you need to realize is these thoughts are not your normal thoughts. These aren't the thoughts that you would normally have on your day-to-day life. And they should trigger a warning for you, like something is going on, like something is taking place, and you need to take those thoughts captive instantly and know where they're coming from. This will 100% eliminate what's about to happen. Because if you take on those thoughts and you start dwelling on them, you start thinking about them, and the fear starts to rise, these are the early steps of what's going to happen when it leads you down this deep panic and this anxiety attack. So if you take these thoughts captive instantly, know they're not your thoughts. These aren't something that you normally think about. Take them captive and pray that the Lord removes them from your mind and blocks them, and tell the enemy to flee. Start rebuking him instantly in prayer in those very moments, and start telling him he needs to flee, that he must flee in the name of Jesus, that you must flee.
But once again, was feeling this something, it was overwhelming inside where I just felt shaky and unnerved. I was a little lightheaded, and I was talking to my wife, and all of a sudden, like, I just had a panic attack. Like I couldn't breathe. I was shaking. I couldn't breathe. And I finally, calmed down, and she prayed for me. And I was like, what was that all about? And so, I went home. Finally, we were flying home, and she had left to go to the store, take my kids to the store, and I'm at home. I'm working out, exercising, and literally I was working out, and I stood up, and all of a sudden my body just like, I had a crazy panic attack. Everything around me was terrifying. I couldn't breathe, and I was on the ground weeping. So finally, after not being able to even go outside, feeling this immense amount of terror, even having like thoughts like this were like, God, are you real? I've never even when I went through the loss of my wife, I never really had that thought. I had thoughts of being upset.
See, and this is another good example too, because these aren't his normal thoughts, especially like what he said, God, are you real? Like, these are thoughts from the enemy. These are seeds being planted in your mind to put you in a place to lead you down this severe anxiety and panic attack where you feel like you're dying. your body just reacts to all these emotions and these fears that you have in your mind, that you just feel like your body's just shutting down. Like your mind is starting to almost break, and your heart is beating at a pace you've never felt before. Your blood pressure is going up through the roof. And if you measure your blood pressure, you probably see numbers that you've never seen before. And then it just magnifies. It keeps on taking you down this path of just darkness. And that's exactly what the enemy's doing. He's planting little seeds, little by little. He's throwing these thoughts in your mind to try to lead you down this dark path.
Or why, questions why, but not like, is there really a God? It was all these, to be honest, it was a very dark thing. And I knew it was the enemy just chiseling away. And this is what happened. So finally, I was just praying and I just said, God, what is it? What is it? Like, why am I experiencing this? And he said, you're trying to control everything, your family. Not like I was trying to control them in a weird way, but to protect them and make sure they're okay. And I was the one that was trying to keep everything under control. So my family, my finances, and my future. It was as clear as day that I was not trusting God with any of those things. I was trying to control them. And that control was so overwhelming that it sent me in a place of just feeling out of control. And that was the whole panic and terror, and just I felt out of control. And finally I repented and I said, God, forgive me for not trusting you. I think that sometimes he allows those thorns in our life, like Paul, to make us rely on him. Jesus said it in John 16:33. He said, I say these things to you that you will have peace. In this world, you will face trials of many kinds. You're going to face trials. Like, we live in a fallen world. Like, that's just a part of what's going to happen. But then he said, but take heart, I've overcome the world. Now, that was like, I felt like that was, thank you. Like, that felt good for me to even like share that. Even though like I've shared some bit, but I think the fullness of it like that is just good. You know what I mean? So
as he explained what he went through, we can notice a few things from his testimony there, and how to prevent that from happening, and how to step in before these events take place, these terrifying events, and how you can overcome these fears. The beginning, like I said, when you have these normal types of anxieties and stuff, is just because you are probably not giving everything to the Lord, and you're trying to handle everything in your own will, in your own two hands. But also, when you're facing a deep panic attack or a deep anxiety attack, or when you start having thoughts that you normally wouldn't think about, know for certain these are the thoughts that are coming from the enemy. These are seeds being planted in your mind to take you down a further step, so it leads you down this dark path of anxiety, of this panic attack. And if you ever experience these things, start in prayer. Instantly start in prayer and ask the Lord to remove the spirit of fear and the spirit of anxiety from you, and rebuke the enemy in Jesus' name. And just, if it takes you to, a half hour, just praying consistently and just rebuking this from you, you will at some point start to have relief. You will have to overcome it in faith and know these thoughts are not coming from you. So I just want you to know, you can be free from this. You can be free from anxiety. You can be free from these panic attacks and this fear of life. The Lord does not want you to live in fear. We have to have faith and just lay it all at the Lord's feet. So if this message has blessed you anyway, share, like, subscribe. And I thank you for watching. God bless.